What's up, techies? I've got a couple of cases by VRS Design, formerly known as VRS, for the Galaxy S7 Edge. I definitely want to tell you about this one because it saved my phone screen, and I'm going to tell you about it in just a second. As I said, this is the case that saved my phone. It would have had a cracked screen if it didn't have this case on it. I was doing a Periscope broadcast and I was trying to adjust the phone on my selfie tripod that I got, and it just fell out of it and went straight on its face. As soon as I get the S7 Edge installed into this case, I'll show you the point of impact and show you why it saved the phone's screen. But first of all, this is like a TPU case. It's got a nice texture to it. It's kind of got that brushed aluminum look. It kind of has that feel to it. If you brush your hands down this way, you can feel the texture. And it's nice and smooth when you go this way. So if you just kind of want to get that kind of picture in your head, that's how it feels. It's also got these air pockets on the inside, so the phone, when it does drop, it has a nice cushion or impact point to where it kind of just displaces the energy when it does get dropped. This is somewhat kind of considered like a two-layer case because it does have this bumper outer frame, which is like a plastic kind of build. And, it adds some extra durability and strength to the case. Installing the case is pretty simple for the most part. You just kind of want to start it out and just kind of work in the corners and the edges, and it just kind of folds over. Usually the last corner is the toughest to get in, but once you get it in, it's pretty good. And then a little trick that I like to do is kind of use my finger here, make sure that it's over the buttons just fine, because I do have button covers for this case. Let me show you where the point of impact was. Like I said, the phone fell face down, but when it hit this part first. That's where the point of impact originally happened, and then it kind of dropped in place as it fell down. As I mentioned on the Periscope, if you saw that, the screen looks flawless, but I did notice one tiny speck on the screen. I can probably barely even show it to you. Like I was just trying to brush away any kind of lint or dust that might have looked like a scratch or any kind of damage at all. But I ended up getting one very, like you have to be looking at it in the perfect lighting to even look at it. I just kind of know what to look for, so I was able to spot it, but there's only one spot. It's around this area. I can't even show you where it was. It's like really that small. But anyways, there's no shattered glass or anything like that, so this case definitely did its job, and I was so thankful that I had it. Let me show you the reason why it actually helped save the phone. What I was really interested about was like, well, it's an Edge, it's a Galaxy S7 Edge. How is this case going to help protect it? Because you would think that like the glass is raised actually above or flush with the sides of the case. But what it is that it's very close to being flush. As far as this part goes right here. If it were to drop right on this part, I would probably be very concerned about it getting any kind of damage because it's so flush with that spot right there. But where it matters is on the top and on the bottom. As you can see, it kind of raises above at that point. So what it does is when it drops face down, it's going to hit that. Let me show you what I mean. Like if I were to put this right here, you can see there's a nice air pocket or gap between the phone and the surface. So when it does drop, you're going to see the point of impact on this area, and you have that much space to worry about. Now fortunately, I was on my garage floor to where it's like really nice and smooth, just as smooth as this desktop here. But if I was out on concrete or gravel, I probably would not have had so much luck because there's really not that much space between here, but just enough to save it. It might have been saved. It might have been like at least maybe a scratch or something that might have happened. But the main point is that when it drops, it's going to hit the top and the bottom first. And that's really helpful. That's something that you're going to want to look out for with these cases, especially with the Galaxy 7 Edge, because these cases, they got to leave room for the Edge features. Like you have to be able to swipe over from the Edge to be able to activate it and stuff. So the case can't come over that part. Otherwise, it would defeat the purpose of the Galaxy 7 Edge. So that's how this case saved my phone. I was very fortunate, very lucky. I'm usually so really careful with my phone, so I hardly ever drop any of my devices. It's only happened not even a handful of times that I can remember, but I've been very fortunate. So moving on, I want to talk about the rest of the case because there's actually more to it than just the protection. One, it feels pretty good in the hand. It's got some nice grip to it. It's that plastic or TPU kind of material to where it's not feeling slippery at all in the hand. So that's even better because you're going to want that kind of handling so you don't drop it from your hands onto the ground. It doesn't interfere with the home button at all. Like you're able to access that kind of stuff just fine. And it's really good like that. The other thing I really appreciate about this case is that the buttons feel really nice and tactile. It's very nice. I'm very impressed with how this feels. It's one of the things that I really like about a case is if the buttons, especially if it's got a button cover, that the buttons feel nice and tactile and it feels like I'm pressing buttons. I'm not having to put much effort into the button pressing process. It feels really good. Like they did a really good job with that. You can tell that they put some extra effort into it because it kind of slides around here. That's the reason why it's so tactile, is because it's not just one piece or a mold or anything like that. It's actually a piece that is sitting inside of here that, you know, you can actually feel it wiggle around. That's the reason why it's nice and tactile. As I was mentioning about the edge features, you can see a little edge right there. You just swipe over and you can activate your edge features and different shortcuts and whatnot. So there's no interference at all. You can use your left hand, you got your right hand over here, no interference at all, which is a good thing. It would really defeat the purpose if that was blocked somehow. Let me talk about this bottom cutout area for just a minute. Now this auxiliary cord is, you know, it's not a typical auxiliary cord, but it's got a thicker head to it. And I just want to show you that if you're going to have anything that is about this size, you're really not going to be able to fit it in there. It just doesn't fit. That's one thing that they do need to improve about this. They need to widen these cutouts. The size that you're going to see now is pretty much what came with the phone, the headphones that came with it, and they fit in just fine. It's about the same size as what I use for my auxiliary cord in my truck and my car. Either way, I think they still need to have a bit bigger, if they just shave out the outer perimeter here just a little bit more just to be able to fit in some of those thicker plugs. Now as far as the USB jack goes, there's plenty of space. There's no issues whatsoever. Any of the USB cables that I've used has fit in there, no problems at all. You also got a cutout for your microphone and your speaker grill down here. Up at the top there's another cutout for a microphone. On the back we have our camera cutout along with our LED light and also our heart rate sensor that you can use here. There's no interference at all. It's a nice cutout. It's really nice and wide, so there's not going to be any kind of ghosting in your pictures. Uninstalling the case is just as easy as just kind of starting with the corner and just peeling it off. Next, let's take a look at their clear bumper case, and it's actually a pretty good one. It's like if you like the design of the phone itself, you kind of want to get one of these kind of cases. So you're going to install it basically the same way as you did the other case. You just kind of start at the corners, just fold one over, and as I mentioned, one corner is going to be tougher than the next. Now to finish installing it, like I said with the other ones, I like to kind of push over these edges just to make sure that the button covers are right in the spot that they need to be into. Now as I mentioned, like if you really like the design of your phone and you don't want to take away from the looks of it, this is a good option to get because you can see the entire back there. This is the gold champagne, so that we could kind of get a good look at that. Now taking a look at that protection that I was talking about the other one, it doesn't seem like this one has as big of a lip that kind of goes up. Just kind of holding these guys next to each other, it does seem like this one here is going to have a little bit, like just a tad bit bigger lip on it, not much at all. So you're still going to get that good protection if it were to fall on its front face. That way you kind of be able to save a screen just like I did the other day. Now something I do like to point out about this case is that you got a really good cushion right here. You notice that if it does drop on any of these edges around here, you're going to get protected, but it does add that girth to it. So just kind of keep that in mind. You can kind of see how the buttons work there. You got that button right here. And this feels just as tactile as the other one. Feels really nice. Pretty much the same kind of setup. You can kind of feel those buttons move around a little bit. And it's a really good concept because it really makes the perfect button press for a case. Like you're really not going to get much better than that. It feels like the actual button itself. Let's go ahead and try this jack just to see if it might be a little bit bigger. See if I can fit this guy in there or not. And it's going to be too big. So this size is going to be too big for that jack. Again, they're going to need to widen this circle out just a little bit more for most headphone jacks. Here's the Galaxy S7 headphones, and it fits in just fine. The USB cutout is just as big as the other one, so there's going to be no issues with that at all. You also have pretty much the same kind of cutout for your microphone and speaker at the bottom. There's another good cutout for the microphone up at the top. Looking at the back, you actually got two cutouts for the camera area. You got one for the camera itself, then one for the LED light, and also that sensor. So you'll be able to put your finger on that sensor without any kind of issues. That's a pretty minimal looking design. It's a good looking case. I like it. As far as grip and stuff goes, you know, as long as my hands aren't completely dry and cold, it's going to feel just fine. I'm gripping this with one hand. I don't feel like I'll drop it. This kind of plastic on the back actually kind of adds some grippiness to it just because of the way the material is. VRS Design provides some pretty good cases to check out. I'll leave a link down below in the description. As I mentioned before, the only issue that I see with this case is the headphone jack area. It just needs to be slightly bigger. Other than that, it's not a deal breaker for me because most of the jacks that I'm using fit just fine. So for me, it's good, but it's something to consider in case you're using a bigger sized headphone jack. If you know somebody looking for a case for their phone, share this video with them because it could be something that they would like. If anything, share it on your favorite social network, and I appreciate it so much. And until then, stay techie.